This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
WBSM presents The Barry Richards Show. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, The Barry Richards Show.
Welcome to the program, 16 minutes after 12 noon on a beautiful, beautiful day on this Tuesday. Temperatures around 70 degrees, maybe slightly over, depending upon where you are, and a mostly blue sky out there, just a slight breeze. If you haven't been out yet, and shorts, yep, definitely short sleeve shirts. It's that kind of day. And I suggest you go out for a little walk, get some fresh air in your lungs. This is a bonus because this is a little bit nicer than it's supposed to be right now on average. Does anybody remember the big snowstorm of May 11th, 1977? Remember that? We had here in the New Bedford area, we had, it was ice. We had a major ice storm, knocked out the power for a couple of days. But north and west of here, it was snow, heavy snow. I was in Boston for it. And I remember coming home. It took me forever to get home on the bus. I think it was the Medeiros bus line at the time, if I remember correctly. And, found out that everything was coated in ice. And my job was closed down for a couple of days because there was no power. It was a mess. We can get snow later than this. And I'm not suggesting that we do or that we should. But, we get frustrated with the weather this time of year because Mother Nature is kind of going back and forth as to what she wants to do. And really, traditionally, it is cool and damp this time of year in May. So any day you get like this in early May is a big bonus. It's like I get a real charge out of the, looking at the Weather Channel's website and various other weather sites. And horrific tornadoes and things that we're seeing out of the Midwest. And I actually saw a headline the other day. I think it was the Weather Channel on their website. The worst tornadoes in a year. You stop and you think about that. The worst tornadoes in a year. Well, it's tornado season, first of all. In Tornado Alley, it's always tornado-y this time of year. But the worst tornadoes in a year, yeah, because I don't think they had any during the winter. But weather is fun, weather is great to watch, and weather is good to make money on. And that's what a lot of folks are doing these days. All right, a lot of stuff to get to. Stormy Daniels is on the witness stand in the Trump trial. I'm not sure how the prosecution is getting away with presenting the evidence it is, but, the judge has allowed it, and we'll see where that goes later on appeal. That could actually get the case tossed out, but because it really has no relevance at all to whether or not Trump paid hush money to Stormy Daniels to talk about salacious sex acts in a hotel. I mean, it really has nothing to do with it, but I'm not going to get into the details of that. I think it's pretty tawdry, and I'm not a pervert. It's amazing how many guys, grown-up men, are perverts in our society, isn't it? And you look at these people that for example, on school boards locally, that insist upon, questionable books and libraries and various things. But I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, it's amazing how many men get turned on by talking about. I don't know. I just, what if you're going to make a case that Trump and Stormy Daniels had a sexual affair? Okay, that's fine. But really, it doesn't have a whole lot to do with the charges. Beyond that, the charge was, did he pay her hush money? She's already signed 2 statements saying that it never happened. There was no affair. So Do you believe her now? Do you believe her then? I don't know. It's just kind of crazy stuff. Trump was threatened with jail yesterday, as you know, and yesterday afternoon, after leaving court, said, hey, look, for the sake of defending the First Amendment and the Constitution of the United States, going to jail would be a small price to pay. So the judge really doesn't want to do this. I'm not sure. Going into court this morning, Trump blasted Biden for pushing the criminal case against him, even as, quote, the country is on fire with the campus protests and such. Listed a number of news reports indicating that the district attorney Bragg's office does not have the evidence necessary to convict Trump in the case. He argued the case against him is like something out of a third world country. We called a legal expense, and that's what they're going after us for, Trump said. It went through the IRS, it went through the FEC, it went through everything. They have no case. Every single legal scholar that I see has said there's absolutely no case. It's a case that should never have been brought. So we'll see how all this plays out. And let's see what else we got. There's so much going on today. It's incredible. The Secret Service holding internal discussions regarding whether or not Trump is going to go to jail. That'd be interesting to see how you do this. Where do you put him? If you lock Trump up, where do you lock him up? How is this done? I mean, I can't imagine that he would go to a conventional jailhouse or Rikers Island or the Bristol County House of Corrections or anything quite like that. I mean, could you imagine guarding the President of the United States? By the way, speaking about perverts and stuff, there was a story just broke a few minutes ago, just since I've come in the studio. And thanks to my buddy Gazelle, came in and pointed it out to me here. It just happened. A vote was taken maybe about 10 minutes ago now. And the Boy Scouts of America voting to change its name for the first time in its 114-year history and will become Scouting America. Boy Scouts of America, no longer the Boy Scouts. They will be simply known as Scouting America. It's a significant shift as the organization emerges from bankruptcy following a flood of sexual abuse claims, and it seeks to focus on inclusion, of course. The organization, steeped in tradition, has made seismic changes after decades of turmoil, from finally allowing gay youth to welcoming girls through its ranks, with an eye on increasing flagging membership numbers. Interesting story, buried deep. In my, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, my giant stack of stuff. Oh, let's see if I can find it. This comes from Europe. A lot of times, a lot of these trendy kind of things happen in Europe first. You know, with the, here we go. New regulations in Britain to guarantee privacy and dignity after years of talk. The UK has banned gender-neutral bathrooms for all new buildings and rebuilds. Privacy and dignity will be protected by the new regulations, which means a host of commercial and public buildings must have separate bathrooms for men and women, according to the British government. Long-discussed amendments to building regulations make separate bathrooms available for the two sexes in new builds and major rebuild projects take effect later this year. Any new rebuilt bar, restaurant, office, school, or hospital, most non-domestic buildings, in other words, must provide men's and women's bathrooms rather than what have been called gender-neutral lavatories. in order to receive planning permission. The government says this will help protect safety, privacy, and dignity. The worm is turning. Things are happening in the world. People are just are fed up, totally fed up. Stewart bankruptcy filing yesterday. I'm sure you've heard about it now. Stewart Healthcare, 8 Bay State hospitals, including St. Anne's in Fall River and Morton and Taunton, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy while leaving its hospitals open. The state is attempting to comfort residents of Massachusetts. At this point, there is a website, mass.gov/Stewart resources, with resources about the situation. There's also a hotline for concerned patients and healthcare providers. That number, I will repeat it here. I will have it here. I'll say it. I'll give it to you right here. It's a toll-free number, and I'll have it handy if you need it. It's 833-305-2070. If you have any questions at all about the Stewart situation and how it might impact maybe a planned surgery or anything to do with your health care. Governor Maura Healey repeatedly called for patients to continue their appointments at Stewart hospitals. Hospitals around the state have been buckling under the weight of increased patient demand, intersecting with a decrease in the state's health care workforce. Also, of course, the reduction in reimbursements. So that's a major problem. We want people to hear from the Department of Public Health that it is safe to get care at Stewart facilities. The facilities are open, says DPH Commissioner Robbie Goldstein. If you're having chest pains, if you're a pregnant person about to deliver, please go to the hospital that's closest to you, the hospital that is in your community. 20% of Massachusetts-based nurses say they plan to leave the field in 2 years or less. 20% of nurses, Massachusetts-based nurses, intend to leave their jobs in 2 years or less, getting out of the field altogether, citing deteriorating quality of care delivered in hospitals, understaffing, low pay, and other challenges. This according to a survey that was released yesterday. 80% of registered nurses, RNs, say the quality of care has worsened in the past 2 years. Wow. 49% say it's gotten much worse. It's according to the survey conducted by the Massachusetts Nurse Association that coincides with the start of National Nurses Week. Survey was conducted by Beacon Research. Registered nurses across the Commonwealth continue to have a bleak outlook on the state of care in hospitals, the survey says. They see an ongoing deterioration of conditions and don't think hospital management or lawmakers are listening to their concerns or doing enough to protect the quality of patient care. The majority of bedside nurses reported not having time to provide care and attention to their patients, needing to care for too many patients at one time, not having enough beds for all patients, and inadequate pay. A full 25% of nurses say they were aware of a patient's death due to the care load. Nearly 40% of nurses said they would feel safe admitting a family member to the unit where they work. Fewer than 40%, nearly 40%, say they, would not feel safe admitting a family member to the unit where they work. Nearly 40% of the nurses surveyed in Massachusetts said they wouldn't even feel safe to admit a family member to the unit that they work on. Of the 1 in 5 nurses who plan to leave the profession, 37% say they are departing because of burnout, exhaustion, or a lack of support from an employer. That's an 11 percentage point increase compared to last year. 3/4 of nurses say lawmakers are not taking action to resolve unsafe staffing levels in hospitals. Massachusetts Nurses Association said nurses will be flooding the State House tomorrow to urge the legislature to tackle the growing nursing patient safety crisis. Just over 60% of nurses say the hospital administrators are not responsive to their feedback about unsafe staffing levels and patient loads. 64% of nurses say the workplace violence and abuse is a serious problem. 64% of nurses say workplace violence and abuse is a serious problem. It's a similar level compared to last year, but a 22 percentage point increase compared to March of 2021. Over the past 2 years, 68% of nurses said they personally experienced at least one instance of workplace violence or abuse. 68% of nurses said they personally experienced at least one instance of workplace violence or abuse. So this is staggering. I mean, we've got a hospital system that's collapsing here in Massachusetts. Another blue state, by the way. Yeah, just another blue state. Another fun day in a blue state. So we've got a medical system that is essentially falling apart. And we have nurses say the system is so bad they want out. System is so bad they want out. "20% plan to leave the field in 2 years or less. Just get out." And we're already experiencing a shortage of nurses. 80% says the quality of care has worsened in the past 2 years. 49% say it's gotten much worse, 49%. Nurses have no confidence in their employers or state lawmakers that they even give a damn. 64% of nurses say workplace violence and abuse is a serious problem. 68% say they personally experienced at least one instance of workplace violence or abuse. Anybody who has been to the hospital to visit somebody or has visited the emergency room can see it with their own eyes. Have you talked to a nurse recently? Have you gone into the emergency room? Have you gone to the hospital and you see how overworked these people are? Have you talked to them? Have you asked them? I can recall one day being in the emergency room. My uncle was in there. He was 90-something at the time. And he needed something. He needed a bedpan or something. I don't recall what it was. But I went to, he was waiting. He was pushing the button, and nobody was coming. And I went out to the desk. And then when I told the nurse, she just kind of, her shoulders sunk down, and she looked at me and said, "I'll be right in." And I just looked at her and said, "How do you folks deal with this?" I mean, it looked like something out of MASH. Remember the TV series MASH? They were injured and wounded and sick all over the place, all over stretchers in the corridors. Sometimes these people can be in those corridors for hours and hours, if not days, literally. And I've seen this repeated. My mother-in-law, from time to time, is in the hospital in Rhode Island, and I see the same thing there. We can only push people so much, and then they reach their limit, psychologically, physically, mentally. I mean, it's just it's too much, way too much. This is our healthcare system in 2024. This is what the socialists dream about: socialized medicine. They want to make it even more. They want to make it even worse by putting it in the hands of government and letting government run. And government is already destroying our healthcare system, and they want to make it even worse. All right, 508-996-05. And let's grab a couple of calls. Got a whole bunch of other stuff I got to bring up today, so stay with us. You are first this hour on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hey, Barry. Democrats, if you're out there, take a bow, because when you passed Obamacare, you should be so proud that you destroyed the entire medical system in this country.
Yeah.
And that's really where Stewart, people want to know why is Stewart going out of business. Well, just say Obamacare.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, you mentioned it, reimbursements. Because what's happening is these hospitals are taking on so much debt and getting little back in terms of reimbursements from the federal government. If you think about it, I'd say 60% of the people living in Massachusetts are either on a government and health care entitlement or get a subsidy to pay for their insurance. And they go into these hospitals everywhere, and it's supposed to cover it. And I've experienced this. I got a friend who's a chiropractor, and he's losing money because of this, because Medicare is just not paying him back for the services he's providing, and he's losing money. And that's what's happening here. And it's only going to get worse now, because what does Joe Biden do? He takes 40 million illegals and he puts them on the Medicare expansion. So it's going to get worse now, not going to get better. And because the majority of people who use hospitals, who go to the emergency rooms, are often people under the poverty line, on the poverty level. So you're going to have an increase in services, more people showing up, and the costs are eventually going to bury all these hospitals. And I said that to someone yesterday. I said, we had the auto bailouts, we had the bank bailouts. The next big thing coming, Barry, is going to be the medical hospital bailouts. Yeah. Those are coming. Stewart's just the beginning of what's going to happen here.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. This is just this is just the tip of the iceberg. And you talk about the reimbursements and the burden on the hospitals. They're being asked to, and doctors too, by the way, and they're being asked to take less money for the services that they provide in terms of reimbursements, but also, factor into this inflation. And you can imagine what it must be costing these operations to make purchases, even if they're purchasing in bulk or whatever. With inflation the way it is outrageous. In addition to that, they're babysitters. They've got half the homeless population that doesn't feel safe on the street, sleeping in the lobbies at night. They're taking care of these people. I mean, what we have done to our hospital system is, how can you possibly expect it to survive under the weight?
No, what's interesting is we needed a catastrophic event to kind of get the ball rolling, to really speed it up. And we don't know what that was. It was COVID. You saw what happened in COVID. These hospitals were flooded. You had people, they didn't have enough beds for all the people who got, especially elderly, who got COVID-19. And it's getting worse. And the Democrats, I tell you, I said this before, and what do they keep pushing? Medicare for all, Medicare for all. Wait a minute. You already got your Medicare for all. Because that's doubling down on this insanity. And what's going to happen is, if you include DEI now, they're pushing DEI and diverse equity on the medical industry. You're going to get less qualified people, less experienced people. The medical care is going to continue to go downhill, and people are going to die. And they don't care, because I told you, all they care about is themselves, and that's why they're pushing this. And I'm not stunned. Stewart is just the beginning. You're absolutely right. You talk about the nurses, they're burned out, they're stressed out, they're not being paid enough. That's another thing that's kicked in with Obamacare, because the regulations and hospitals are bringing in less money. So instead of actually paying more or hiring more, they're getting rid of people less. Whoever buys parts of Stewart, they're going to come in there, they're going to lay off people, because they have their own people who they can stick in those hospitals. But the amount of care, specifically in poor cities like New Bedford, Florida, is going to continue to go down. It's going to get worse. And these politicians, I mean, the nurses they're going to beg the state legislature to do something. What are they going to do? They don't control Obamacare. I mean, they control mass health, but they don't. We only do, because Medicare. All these states get funding from the federal government for the Medicare expansion. The state doesn't really handle a lot of it. They regulate the money. They get the money. They shift it to hospitals and to medical groups to take care of people. But they don't control how much
even mass health. I mean, we had a story last week about the state has reduced the mass health rolls by as many as 3,000 people just in the course of the last year. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad idea, because I think that there is probably a lot of abuse out there. But the fewer people that are receiving mass health, these people are going to be showing up at the hospitals. And that is the primary, that is ground zero now for everything. Anybody who's in this country illegally goes to St. Luke's Hospital emergency room, because you cannot be denied. They can't ask you about your status, and they can't deny you. So this is ground zero now for everybody, from a hangnail up to, more serious issues. And the people who need the services. Taylor Cormier was on the program 2 weeks ago talking about he had a serious respiratory issue, and he was turned away in Boston. They didn't have any beds for him. And
well, the federal government announced last January that because of Obamacare's reduced, there's not enough money coming in to push the money going out, that they were going to basically cut the rolls. what they're doing is now they're changing all the requirements. You know, it's like in Massachusetts, I think you have to make it's like $2,900 a month to qualify for full health care under Mass Health. That's going to change. You're going to keep pushing it down, and more people are going to lose their health insurance. And the double whammy is you lose your health insurance. Well, I can't afford to buy private insurance. Bam, here comes the fines, because the state's now levying massive fines on people who aren't insured, and then you have the federal government with their fines. So it's crazy, Barry. It's literally, they're just literally destroying the entire medical system just for the sake of, they can sit there.
What was it that Joe Biden said the day that Barack Obama signed Obamacare? Do you remember?
Yeah, I can't remember what he said, but
what he said was he thought he was whispering it to Obama, but it was picked up by the microphones. This is a BFD. Remember?
Oh yes.
This is a BFD. So don't be looking for this administration to do anything about healthcare costs, because they are in for this. They like this. As a matter of fact, they've been trying to expand it, and they just expanded by executive order about a week ago. Biden just expanded it to include all the DACA recipients.
Yeah, it's insanity. I remember the day after this was passed, Sally Pipes from the Heritage Foundation came out, and this is a woman who grew up in Canada. She mentioned she wrote a book on it. She says, just give it within 10 years, you're going to start to see the collapse of the healthcare system in America, because these people don't know what they're doing. And what they're doing is they're driving America down into a hole and may not be able to get out of eventually. And it's like I said, you're seeing it now. You're seeing it now all across the country.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. 508-996-0500 is our number. Thanks for hanging on. You're next on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hey, Barry, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Not bad. Yeah, talking on the reimbursements. This has been a long time coming. This predates Obamacare. This is actually a Medicare issue. Medicare reimbursements have not been keeping up with inflation for the past 20 some odd years, and it's been this way, and it's been a projected problem for decades and decades. So while Obamacare may have increased the acceleration of it, this is really a problem with socialized medicine since the inception of Medicare. Medicare is socialism, and that is specifically the biggest driver, one, of our national debt, but two, of the current situation. You have people coming in right now that are they're on Medicare. Well, they're not on Medicare. They're accepting Medicare as physicians. And then Medicare comes in and says, oh, we're not going to pay you the rate that you want. We're going to pay you what we want, which then causes them to no longer be in the profession. So this is socialized medicine. Medicare from the 60s is socialism. And I hear a lot of people, even conservatives, who defend it. And this is the problem. We need to privatize the entire...
Yeah, you know what? You and I have had this debate 100 times, and you're not going to change my view. Anything for seniors, healthcare for seniors, shouldn't even be an issue. Seniors, that's not socialism. When you've worked your entire life and you've contributed to the system, you've paid taxes, you've served your country in the military, you've built the roads, the bridges, educated the school children, and contributed out of your paycheck every week that you work toward your healthcare when you get older. That's not socialism.
No, it is 100% socialism.
No, it's not socialism. You've contributed to that. You've paid that. That's yours. You've paid that. Now, if you want to have a different system and you want to sit down and negotiate a different system, and we say going forward, this is how we're going to do things, okay, I'm with you. I'm open-minded. I'll sit down and talk to you about that. But you're not going to tell me that seniors who have built this country and served their country and paid over the course of their entire lifetime are being given something that they don't deserve or they didn't contribute to. That's bull.
So back in the 1960s, one of the biggest industries that wanted Medicare was your private insurance. And why? Because it took the
All right, but you know what? I don't have time for history lessons. What I'm trying, you're trying to tell me that senior citizens are demanding socialistic handouts here, and that's a bunch of crap. Anybody who is a senior citizen right now that's getting Medicare deserves Medicare. That was the agreement. Now, I don't care how the agreement came to be or who implemented it or what the basis of it was. That's not the point. The point is it was the deal. We had a deal. And so you can't change the deal now, or you can't go back and accuse old people of cheating the system or being given handouts or being socialists or whatever. This was the deal. If you want to negotiate a deal going forward that is somehow different, okay, I'm sure we as a country can sit down and talk about that. My kids are in their 20s. Okay, fine. Now's the time to talk about their future. You don't tell somebody when they're 75 or 80 years old, oh, you're nothing but a money-grubbing socialist. That's a lot of crap, and you're never going to get off of square one with me on that. I got to take a break. 508-996-0500 is our number. We'll come.
You're gonna live in the old hard way, taking and giving my day by day. I take snow and rain and bright sunshine. Checking the line.
All right, welcome back into the program. It is 12:48 now. It is a beautiful Tuesday in progress. Thanks for being with me today. I appreciate it. By the way, speaking about money and how money is being spent and how crazy all of this is, the gentleman that just called before, look, we've had this discussion 100 times. I don't mean to, to snap at him, but I mean, we've had the same discussion over and over and over. He's not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change his. But I am insulted as somebody who is a senior citizen. And I don't use Medicare at this point because I still work and I have health insurance. So I'm not using it. But I know an awful lot of people who are, who were told this is the way it's going to be. And they worked their whole life in good faith, and they had money taken out of their checks every week for their old age, Social Security, Medicaid, and all this kind of stuff, Medicare. And now you're going to say that they're socialists, and that somehow or another they're sucking off the system that is welfare. I mean, that's bull, absolute bull crap. If the gentleman doesn't want his money that he's contributed, he can put it back. That's simple as that. If he wants to negotiate a new way forward, okay, fine. I'm all for it. But you are not on my watch anyway, going to attack seniors who have contributed to this country their entire life. But, one of the reasons we don't have money for things is because we have bloated budgets. We have crooked legislators and members of Congress and politicians, particularly in Massachusetts, where, this state is as corrupt morally, mentally, as you're going to find. And so, we've been talking about the House of Representatives releasing its budget a couple of weeks ago, and the budget calls for, another $500,000 on shelters for illegals, while the members of the House, our own delegation, voted against giving preference to veterans and to Massachusetts families for shelters over illegal immigrants. Okay, yeah, that. And so we've been telling you the Senate is going to be releasing its budget, and it's about to. And the State House News Service got a hold of the Senate's version of the budget. What happens is the governor releases her budget, then the House releases its budget, then the Senate releases its budget, and then everybody gets together in a room. It's like picking a pope, right? And then you wait for the gray smoke to come up, and then you got a budget agreement. And anyway, so the Senate is about to release its budget. Senate Ways and Means Committee, I think it drops later today, if I recall the State House News Service report. So we don't know a whole lot, but according to sources that have spoken to the State House News Service, the Senate is looking to place an emphasis on the state and local partnerships in steering more money to cities and towns in the form of local aid. About $1.3 billion in unrestricted general government aid funding. That's local aid. That's local aid that's not dedicated to something, but money that the local communities can spend as they see fit. That's an increase of $38.1 million, or 3% over fiscal year 2024, the current fiscal year. Now, the Senate's budget mirrors what Maura Healey put forward in her own fiscal 2025 budget, and it's about $25 million more than the House has approved in its budget. We're talking about local aid to communities, unrestricted aid. Now, here we go. Okay, these are the things that really piss me off. When you're telling me that a senior citizen is somehow scamming the system or is a socialist for taking a Medicare, How about this? Regional transit authorities. Under the Senate's budget, the Democrats are proposing $214 million for regional transit authorities like CERTA, which is a hell of a lot more than what Healy and the Massachusetts House are proposing. And about $120 million of that money would come from a surtax revenues that are available for transportation. That's probably from the so-called millionaire's tax. And the Democrats want to use that cash to eliminate fares on all regional transit authorities. Because that's more important than providing money for seniors, for health care, right? Or guaranteeing shelter for homeless veterans. They want to do away with the fares, so the bus rides are free. They're free already in New Bedford right now under an experimental program, I believe statewide. You can ride the bus all day for free. Okay, so what do you think? People are doing that have no job or nothing else to do? Just ride the bus all day for free, right? And they want to expand regional bus service and provide grants to support regional transit authority commuter operations. $120 million because we don't have enough for senior health care, but we'll provide free bus passes to everybody because that's important, right? That's the most important thing that's going out there. Makes you sick, doesn't it? Here's some good news for you. If your home is experiencing some leaks in the roof, Kudo Construction Company has a solution for you. It's called a roof tune-up. Not every roof necessarily a candidate for roof replacement, but every roof could benefit from a little TLC. For $199, Kudo's expert technicians will conduct maintenance to ensure your roof lives a long life. Take advantage of this offer today. Give them a call, 508-509-4414. Let them know that Barry sent you. Act now. Offer could end at any time, so you don't want to miss out. Some exclusions apply. Visit KudoConstruction.com for details, and please tell them Barry sent you. We're back in a minute.
Sweet Jesus, one told over the line. Sitting downtown in a railway station, one told over the line.
All right, welcome back into the program on a Tuesday afternoon. 508-996-0500 is the number. And the insanity that is college campuses still continuing. I guess there's been a couple of mix-up between authorities and protesters in the Boston schools and all across the country. I haven't been giving it a whole lot of publicity the last few days, just kind of letting it unfold. There was an instance, was it Oregon? Yeah, Oregon, pro-Palestinian group setting police cars on fire. The group is named after a radical activist who died in Gaza and is claiming responsibility for torching several police cars in Portland, Oregon. Such peaceful children, right? Such peaceful children. These are your kids that you are paying a lot of money to send to school, and this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing on your dime, right? And then we'll forgive their student loans later on because they were under duress. They were under duress when they flipped those cop cars and set them on fire. Peaceful protests. Peaceful protests. Yeah. Joe Biden was just out a little while ago speaking about anti-Semitism. No place in America for anti-Semitism. Uncle Semitism either. Anyway, got to take a break for the news. ABC News is coming up, followed by WBSM News, and then the ABC 6 Weather Center forecast.